poor single dad sheltered a girl for one night, never knowing she was a billionaire's heir. The rain poured relentlessly over the small, weathered house where Michael, a 37-year-old single father, lived with his 8-year-old daughter Lily. Inside, the warm glow of a dim kitchen light bounced off the walls, casting long shadows over the worn wooden floor. The scent of simple pasta and butter filled the room, mingling with a faint aroma of old books stacked haphazardly on a nearby shelf. Michael stirred the pot gently, glancing down at Lily as she carefully set a few mismatched plates and forks on the table. Despite the exhaustion etched into his face from long hours at work, his eyes softened every time they met hers. The bond they shared was a quiet sanctuary, a fragile cocoon against the harshness of the world outside. A sudden knock at the door startled them both. Michael paused, drying his hands on a threadbare towel. Lily peeked around his leg, curiosity and caution mingling in her young eyes. "I'll see who it is," Michael said, his voice steady. Opening the door, he found a young woman standing there, soaked and shivering under the relentless rain. Her long blonde hair clung to her face, and her blue eyes looked lost, vulnerable, and utterly human. I just need somewhere to stay for the night," she whispered, barely audible over the storm. Before we dive deeper into this journey, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below where you're watching from. We love hearing your stories too. Without hesitation, Michael stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Lily rushed forward, wrapping a small blanket around the woman's shoulders, her tiny hands trembling slightly. "You must be freezing," Lily said softly. The woman's lips curved into a faint, grateful smile, a mix of relief and weariness. She followed them inside, and Michael quickly grabbed a towel to dry her hair and a steaming cup of tea to warm her hands. She introduced herself as Emma, offering little else about her life. Michael noticed the elegance in her posture, the careful precision of her movements, even in her soaked state. There was something different about her, a subtle refinement that contrasted sharply with the humble surroundings. Yet he said nothing, only offering the comfort he knew how to give. He guided her to a chair near the fireplace while Lily sat on the floor, chatting softly as she handed Emma a small plate of food. As the night stretched on, Emma began to relax slightly, sharing quiet laughter with Lily as the fire crackled beside them. Michael watched from the kitchen, stirring another pot, his mind swirling with concern and curiosity. The storm outside beat against the roof, relentless and unforgiving, yet inside the little house, there was warmth, safety, and an unexpected sense of calm. For a brief moment, Michael allowed himself to hope that this chance encounter might be nothing more than a fleeting night of shelter and kindness. But something about Emma's eyes, the faint tremor in her hands, and the small thoughtful gestures she made toward Lily hinted at a life far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The night had only just begun, and already, the delicate threads of connection, trust, and unspoken stories were weaving tightly between them, binding their lives together in ways Michael could not yet understand. Outside, the storm continued its relentless rhythm, but inside, the flickering firelight danced on faces filled with vulnerability, hope, and a quiet, fragile bond. Michael poured himself a cup of tea, glanced at Lily laughing with Emma, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of the world outside seemed to fade, replaced by a simple, profound truth. Tonight they were safe together, and somehow, everything felt possible. The morning light seeped through the thin curtains, casting soft golden rays across the small kitchen. Michael moved quietly, careful not to wake Lily, who had curled up with a blanket on the living room sofa after a restless night of rain and unfamiliar sounds. Emma sat nearby, her fingers wrapped around a warm mug, staring out the window at the damp world beyond. There was a calmness to her now, a vulnerability that seemed to soften the edges of her elegance. She had eaten quietly with Lily the night before, but today, there was a tentative openness, a willingness to engage in the simple, unpretentious rhythm of this modest home. Michael set down a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of her. "Eat something," he said gently. Emma nodded, offering a small, polite smile. She lifted the fork, carefully sampling the food, her delicate fingers brushing against the plate. Her eyes, a vivid shade of blue, flicked to Lily, who was already chattering about a game she wanted to play later. Emma listened attentively, her lips curving into another fleeting smile, and for a moment, she allowed herself to feel like she belonged in this humble kitchen, even if only for a few hours. As they ate, Emma shared bits of her day-to-day, carefully avoiding details about her real life. She laughed softly at Lily's jokes, her voice melodic yet tinged with a quiet restraint. Michael watched them, heart tightening at the sight of this gentle connection forming in front of him. There was a sincerity in her gestures, small, almost imperceptible habits like tucking a stray hair behind her ear or brushing crumbs from Lily's cheek, that hinted at refinement, yet they were grounded in genuine care. After breakfast, Lily grabbed Emma's hand, tugging her toward the living room. "Come on, we can build the fort now," she exclaimed. Emma hesitated briefly, then smiled, allowing herself to be pulled into the world of imagination. Together, they stacked cushions, draped blankets, and created a small cozy space where laughter filled the corners. Michael lingered nearby, pretending to fix a broken chair, but his eyes kept darting to the pair. He marveled at the way Emma's laughter, soft, restrained, yet completely sincere, blended with Lily's, creating a melody of warmth and joy he hadn't realized he'd missed so much. Throughout the morning, small details emerged: Emma's subtle gestures, the careful way she handled objects, and a brief mention of a place she had visited that seemed far beyond their ordinary life. Yet, she never flaunted anything. There was a quiet elegance in her restraint. Michael felt a growing curiosity, an unspoken question hovering in the air. Who was this young woman, and why had fate placed her in his home? By mid-morning, the storm outside had faded to a drizzle, leaving behind a glistening world of puddles and soft, dripping leaves. Emma helped Lily with a small craft project, guiding her hands with patience and grace. Michael stepped back, watching the tender interaction. He felt an unexpected sense of relief and wonder, a quiet admiration for the way she navigated this simple life with such ease. Despite her mysterious presence, there was something achingly human about her, a warmth and sensitivity that made it impossible not to care. The hours passed slowly but meaningfully, filled with soft conversation, laughter, and small ordinary acts of kindness that carried extraordinary weight. Michael felt the invisible thread tightening between them, a fragile connection built from shared moments and quiet compassion. And though neither of them spoke of it aloud, the seed of something significant had been planted that morning, a moment suspended between ordinary life and the extraordinary, waiting to unfold in ways neither of them could yet imagine. By afternoon, the rain had stopped, leaving the world outside glistening under a hesitant sun. Michael sat at the small wooden table, sorting through bills and old letters, while Lily played quietly with a small toy train on the floor. Emma remained nearby, flipping through a well-worn book, her movements careful, deliberate, almost meticulous. There was a quiet elegance in everything she did, a way of holding herself, a precision in her gestures, that contrasted sharply with the modest surroundings. Michael noticed it but said nothing, his attention half on his tasks, half on the young woman whose presence had quietly transformed the atmosphere of his home. Emma's attention to small details did not go unnoticed by Lily. "You always do things so perfectly," the little girl said, her eyes wide with admiration. Emma smiled softly, brushing a lock of damp hair from her forehead. "I just like things neat," she replied, her voice carrying a subtle accent that hinted at a life far removed from this small rain-soaked house. She helped Lily carefully line up her toys and fold small blankets, her hands delicate and precise, as if every motion carried an invisible weight of refinement. Michael watched in quiet fascination, sensing that there was more to this girl than met the eye. As the afternoon wore on, subtle hints of her real life began to surface. A stray mention of a vacation in a distant country, a comment about a type of fruit Lily had never tasted, even the brand of her tea, small, almost inconsequential details that seemed oddly luxurious. Michael felt a flicker of curiosity, a whisper in his mind that Emma was unlike anyone he had ever met. Yet she spoke with humility, never bragging or flaunting anything. Instead, her elegance was quiet, understated, and compelling. Lily, oblivious to the tension, tugged at Emma's hand. "Let's play a game," she insisted. Emma laughed softly, the sound light and melodic, and agreed. They played board games and shared stories, their laughter echoing through the small house, filling the space with warmth. Michael poured himself another cup of tea, quietly observing. There was something disarming about Emma's presence, a strange balance between sophistication and childlike tenderness, a duality that intrigued him more than he cared to admit. Emma paused for a moment, staring out the window at the remaining puddles on the street. Michael approached, handing her the cup of tea. "You seem different," he said cautiously, unsure how to phrase the thought. Emma's eyes met his, holding a shadow of vulnerability, a fleeting hesitation that revealed nothing and everything at once. "I've just lived a life with different experiences," she replied, her tone calm yet layered, a careful shield around truths she had not yet revealed. As the evening approached, subtle signs of her wealth continued to appear, a glimpse of a finely made watch peeking from beneath her sleeve, a carefully folded scarf with an intricate pattern, and the poised way she carried herself. Each small detail seemed to contradict the humble world around her, yet she never drew attention to it. Michael's mind buzzed with questions, but he remained silent, allowing the ordinary rhythm of the household to carry on. By the time the sun dipped behind the horizon, the room glowed with the soft golden light of a single lamp. Lily yawned and snuggled beside Emma, who wrapped her in a gentle, protective embrace. Michael watched them, a mixture of awe and curiosity tightening in his chest. The threads of their lives were weaving together, binding them in an intricate, delicate pattern. And though he could not yet comprehend it, the day had subtly shifted the dynamics of their household, setting the stage for revelations that would change everything he thought he knew about kindness, identity, and the unexpected ways lives could collide. As night fell, a quiet tension settled over the small house. Michael sat at the kitchen table, running a hand through his hair as he glanced at the bills stacked neatly in front of him. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily against his shoulders, and yet, he felt a strange pull toward Emma, sitting across the room, quietly helping Lily arrange her pajamas for bed. Her movements were calm, precise, almost ceremonial, and Michael couldn't help but notice the care with which she interacted with his daughter. There was an elegance in her gestures, subtle and restrained, yet unmistakable, and it tugged at something deep inside him, a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Emma hesitated before speaking, her voice soft and measured. "Lily is very sweet, very bright," she said, almost as if testing the waters. Michael nodded, unsure of how to respond, sensing that she was careful with her words, guarding something essential. The conversation lingered on mundane topics, the weather, a book Lily had been reading, but beneath the surface, there was an unspoken tension, a delicate balance between trust and secrecy. Michael could feel it, the sense that Emma was holding back pieces of herself, pieces that might change everything if revealed. Lily yawned, rubbing her eyes, and Michael guided her toward her small bedroom. Emma followed, her presence quiet but comforting. She knelt beside Lily, tucking the blanket snugly around her shoulders, her fingers brushing gently against the child's hair. Michael watched, heart tightening, as Emma's refined movements contrasted sharply with the humble surroundings. There was something deliberate in her care, a practiced gentleness that hinted at a world far removed from their modest home. Yet despite the mystery, the warmth she radiated was real, grounding them in a fragile, fleeting intimacy. After Lily drifted into sleep, Michael and Emma sat in the dimly lit living room. The fire flickered softly, casting shadows across the walls. For a moment, neither spoke, the silence heavy with unspoken questions. Then Michael finally asked, his voice careful, "You've been very different today. There's something about you I can't quite place." Emma looked at him, her eyes glistening with something between hesitation and vulnerability. "I'm not like most people," she admitted quietly, her gaze dropping to her hands. "I've lived a life with experiences you couldn't imagine, things I can't always share." Michael leaned back, absorbing her words. A strange mixture of awe, confusion, and concern coursed through him. There was a fragility in her admission, a subtle plea for understanding that stirred protective instincts he hadn't realized he possessed. He wanted to ask more, to uncover the truth, but something in the quiet strength of her demeanor told him that patience was required. Instead, he simply nodded, offering a reassuring smile, signaling that he accepted her without needing to know every detail. Emma's lips curved into a faint, grateful smile. She spoke softly, almost to herself, "I didn't expect to find kindness like this. Not tonight, not here." Michael felt a lump in his throat. The weight of the storm outside, the struggles of his life, and the unspoken pain she carried seemed to converge in that moment, pressing against the fragile boundary of their shared space. There was an intensity in the quiet, a growing tension that neither of them fully understood yet, a subtle forewarning that the night's calm was only temporary, and that the truth she concealed would soon surface, demanding attention. They sat together in silence for a long while, listening to the occasional drip of rain from the eaves, the faint crackle of the dying fire, and the soft, even breathing of a sleeping child. In that stillness, an invisible bond strengthened between them, fragile yet undeniable. Each gesture, each glance, each unspoken thought layered itself into the fabric of the night, preparing the household for the revelation that would challenge every assumption Michael had about who Emma was, and what this brief encounter would mean for all of their lives. The next morning arrived with a soft, golden light filtering through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the modest kitchen. Michael was making breakfast, humming quietly to himself as Lily played at the table, stacking plastic blocks into precarious towers. Emma sat nearby, sipping her tea, and for a moment, The house felt calm, almost ordinary. But beneath the surface, an unspoken tension lingered. Michael had noticed the subtle hints of her life, her impeccable manners, her careful way of handling objects, the fleeting references to places and experiences far beyond their world. Something told him that today, the fragile equilibrium would shift. After breakfast, as Lily scampered off to play with her toys, Emma turned to Michael, her expression serious yet soft. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael paused, placing the spatula down, sensing the weight behind her words. I'm not who you think I am," she continued, hesitating as if measuring the impact of each syllable. Her eyes met his, a mixture of vulnerability and resolve shining in their depths. Michael felt a sudden, inexplicable tightness in his chest, a mix of anticipation and apprehension that made the air in the small kitchen feel charged. Emma drew a steadying breath. "I'm Emma Caldwell," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "My family, we have a fortune. We're billionaires." Michael froze, the words hanging in the air like a sudden storm breaking through the calm. For a heartbeat, he couldn't speak, couldn't move, as the world seemed to tilt on its axis. The girl who had shared quiet laughter with Lily, who had moved with such care and gentleness, was someone from a world he had only glimpsed in magazines and on television. He felt a surge of disbelief, tinged with awe and a strange, prickling curiosity. Emma continued, explaining as gently as she could that she had chosen to remain anonymous to avoid attention and to experience life in a way most of her family would never allow. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, revealing the weight of her choice, the isolation of her privileged world, and the courage it took to step into an ordinary life for even a single night. Michael listened, heart pounding, as he absorbed every word. He could see the conflict etched on her delicate features, the fear of rejection, the shame of her secrecy, and the hope that his kindness had been enough to see past all of it. For a moment, silence filled the kitchen. Michael sat back, absorbing the revelation, his mind a swirl of emotions: shock, disbelief, admiration, and an overwhelming protective instinct. He realized that the connection they had shared over the past day was genuine, unaffected by wealth or status. Emma's vulnerability and her sincere care for Lily transcended any social or financial divide, and Michael found himself marveling at the strength it took for her to reveal the truth. Lily, oblivious to the magnitude of the confession, tugged at Emma's hand. "Come play with me." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with affection and relief. Michael watched them together, recognizing that the bond between them was real, untainted by status, and built entirely on trust, compassion, and shared moments of quiet humanity. The morning sun reflected off Emma's eyes as she laughed with Lily, and Michael felt a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the fire in the hearth. As the day continued, Michael and Emma moved through small routines, serving breakfast, tidying the living room, watching Lily's antics, each moment layered with a newfound awareness of truth and honesty. The revelation of her identity did not create distance. Instead, it deepened the connection, revealing the fragile, beautiful complexity of human interaction. The small house, with its worn furniture and simple meals, became a space of trust, revelation, and quiet emotional intensity, a place where the ordinary collided with the extraordinary, reshaping the lives of all who dwelled within it. The afternoon sun streamed gently through the windows, casting a soft glow over the small living room where Michael, Emma, and Lily sat together. The air was filled with a quiet, comfortable warmth, a stark contrast to the stormy night that had brought Emma to their door. Michael poured a cup of tea, his hands steady now, his mind calm despite the extraordinary revelation earlier that morning. Emma sat beside Lily on the floor, helping her arrange a new set of blocks, their laughter mingling in a rhythm that felt natural, unforced, and profoundly healing. Michael observed them, a mixture of awe and gratitude settling over him. The initial shock of learning Emma's true identity had given way to a deeper understanding. Wealth and privilege meant nothing compared to the genuine kindness, care, and empathy she displayed toward his daughter and their humble life. Emma's attention to small, thoughtful gestures, the way she adjusted Lily's blanket, the patience in her explanations during their game, the quiet encouragement in her voice, revealed a humanity that money could never buy. It was in these moments that Michael realized how extraordinary she truly was. Lily giggled as Emma lifted her small hands, helping her place the final blocks atop their fragile tower. "Look. It's so tall," she exclaimed, eyes sparkling with pride. Emma smiled, a soft, unguarded smile that carried both affection and reassurance. Michael felt an unexpected warmth bloom in his chest, a mix of relief, joy, and profound respect. He recognized that Emma's presence had transformed their ordinary household into a space of laughter, learning, and shared intimacy, even if only for a short while. They moved together through small, seemingly ordinary routines, tidying up toys, preparing a simple snack, and sharing quiet conversation. But every action carried weight, a subtle layering of trust and mutual respect that had grown from their shared vulnerability. Emma's refined manners, once a quiet contrast to their modest life, now felt harmonious with the household, her elegance blending seamlessly with the warmth and love already present. She was no longer a stranger. She had become a quiet, grounding presence, a bridge between worlds that Michael had never imagined could intersect so naturally. Michael finally spoke, his voice calm yet filled with unspoken emotion. "Emma, thank you. For everything. You didn't have to come here, and yet, you chose to be kind. That means more than you can imagine." Emma's eyes softened, a faint glimmer of emotion breaking through her composed exterior. "I wanted to experience something real," she admitted quietly. "And you and Lily, you gave me that." Michael nodded, understanding more in that moment than words could convey. It wasn't about wealth or status, it was about connection, humanity, and the unexpected ways lives could intertwine. As the sun dipped lower, painting the room in golden hues, Lily climbed into Emma's lap, resting her head against her shoulder. Emma wrapped an arm gently around the child, her eyes meeting Michael's across the room. In that glance, there was mutual understanding, a silent acknowledgement that the night's events had created something enduring. Though their worlds were vastly different, the bonds formed through empathy, care, and shared moments of joy transcended all barriers. The house felt alive with quiet, tender energy. Every corner held traces of laughter, warmth, and small gestures of love. Michael realized that this night, this afternoon, and this revelation had transformed not only their understanding of Emma but also their sense of what connection truly meant. In the simplest acts, helping, listening, laughing, they had discovered something far more valuable than wealth: the enduring power of human kindness and the profound beauty of genuine relationships. As evening settled over the small house, the golden light of the setting sun streamed through the windows, painting everything with a soft, almost magical glow. Michael sat at the table, sipping a cup of tea, while Lily curled up beside Emma on the sofa, her head resting gently against Emma's shoulder. The room was quiet, filled with a calm intimacy that spoke louder than any words. After the revelation of her true identity, Emma had embraced the ordinary moments of their lives with a sincerity that left a lasting impression. The bond forged in a single night had grown, fragile yet unbreakable, built on trust, care, and genuine connection. Emma looked down at Lily, brushing a loose strand of hair from her forehead. "You're very special, Lily," she said softly. The little girl's eyes sparkled, and she responded with a shy smile, her small hand gripping Emma's. Michael watched them, a lump forming in his throat. In that moment, he understood the profound truth that had quietly revealed itself over the past day. Life's most extraordinary moments weren't defined by wealth, status, or privilege, but by love, empathy, and the courage to show vulnerability. The three of them shared a simple dinner, laughter blending with quiet conversation. Emma spoke of her travels and experiences in gentle, abstract terms, careful not to impose her world on theirs. Michael noticed how naturally she adjusted, how gracefully she balanced her past with the present, never overshadowing the ordinary beauty of the home. It was in these small, quiet interactions, the way she encouraged Lily, the care with which she listened, the subtle gestures of kindness, that the true richness of her character shone. As night deepened, Michael guided Lily to her bedroom, tucking her in with the same gentle care he had always shown. Emma lingered a moment at the doorway, sharing a quiet, understanding glance with him. Words were unnecessary. The unspoken acknowledgement of shared experiences and mutual respect bridged any gap between them. Michael felt a profound gratitude, not for wealth or fame, but for the opportunity to connect with someone who had chosen to see and value the humanity in his small, modest life. Later, they sat together in the living room, the fire casting flickering shadows across the walls. Emma spoke softly, "Thank you for letting me stay. You showed me what it means to be seen for who I truly am." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of her words, understanding that this night had altered their lives irrevocably. The extraordinary had entered their ordinary existence, not through luxury or power, but through simple human kindness. The evening drew to a close, and Emma prepared to leave. She hugged Lily tightly, whispering a promise to always remember their time together. Michael shook her hand, a mixture of pride and wistful sorrow in his expression. As she stepped out into the cool night air, there was a sense of quiet triumph, not in wealth, not in fortune, but in the lasting impact of empathy, compassion, and shared humanity. The house grew still once more, the soft glow of the lamp reflecting off the walls. Michael and Lily sat together in silence, hearts full, understanding that their brief encounter had created something enduring. Though Emma would return to a world of luxury and privilege, the bonds formed that night would remain, invisible threads connecting them across time and distance. In the quiet aftermath, Michael felt a profound hope, a renewed belief in the power of kindness, and the realization that the simplest acts could transform lives in ways wealth never could. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, share this video and tell us in the comments, what part of this journey moved you the most? There's another story waiting for you, and it might just change the way you see the world. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon.